Alright guys, we're back with another one, and this is a battle between two Chromebooks. This is the Dell Chromebook 11 from 2015, and this is the Samsung Chromebook 3 from 2016. So here we have it guys, this is the Dell Chromebook 11, and this is a ruggedized Chromebook. This right here is a nice Chromebook if you have kids, if you have a grandma, if you're a working person and or you're a student and you use your Chromebook with reckless abandon. You're not really the type of person who cleans it off. You're not the type of person that keeps it nice and neat. You just throw it in your bag and go. You put it on the desk. You put it down real hard. You just have a reckless abandon when it comes to these type of products. This is the Chromebook for you. The reason why this is the Chromebook for you, because you got a rubberized everywhere. Pretty much the whole thing is on the sides is covered with this rubber, which can absorb any drops, any mistreatment. You can take this Chromebook through. So this is a Intel processor, the 2840, the Intel Celeron 2840 with 4 gigs of RAM. And let me tell you, it's running. I haven't felt any slowdowns. I haven't felt any issues with this Chromebook. It's just moving. Now, so when it comes to the processor, it's not bad. But let's compare it to the Samsung Chromebook. Now, when it comes to the Samsung Chromebook, this Chromebook you may want to treat with a little bit more care. I like the feel of the body. It's very grippy, so you don't have to worry about if this is too slippery to drop. Now, on the bottom, it has a little less grip than the top, but it's still a very grippy device. Samsung logo, Chrome logo. You know, there's no protection around the sides or anything like that, like the Dell. But it doesn't feel like it's a Chromebook you're going to drop, and it doesn't feel like a Chromebook that is easy to break either. It is a nice looking Chromebook. So you might want to treat this one with a little bit more care. This is for the person who like a little bit more style over function. But let me tell you, this is the Intel processor as well, but this is a more updated version of the Intel processor. This is a 30, if I'm not mistaken, a 3050 Intel Celeron processor with 4 gigs of RAM, and I would honestly say it's running. But at the same time, I've caught a couple of times where it seemed to have that little bit of hesitation, and I was actually in areas with better internet where I found that. So when it comes to the processor, for some reason it's running a little bit more quicker, a little bit more snappier on the Dell. Now, when it comes to the screen is very important. You know, because when it comes to the body of each device, it's either you want a more sleeker, polished look, or you want a more ruggedized look. For me personally, I rather the sleeker look, but man, I'm feeling the ruggedized look. So they're both doing the job in their each particular aesthetics, you know, so I got to give it a wash on that, because this is built to be more rugged, this is built to be more clean, and they both doing the job. Now, when it comes to the screen, you can see right here which one is more washed out than the other. The Dell screen I'm having an issue with. Everything seems to be more washed out. Now, both screens are not phenomenal in any way. With the Samsung, you're going to get a better punch when it comes to the pictures and how it look, rather than the Dell. The Dell, definitely in a lot of occasions, you're going to be frustrated a little bit over the screen, because it's definitely a screen that looks very washed out. So when it comes to the screen, I got to give it to the Samsung. The Samsung, when it comes to the screen, is just better. Period. End of story. Now, when it comes to the speakers are very important, because if you're doing a presentation or anything like that, you want the person to be able to hear what you're showing them. So it's very important when it comes to speakers. So let's go into that sound test right now. Let's go into the sound.
those with too much force, stretching them past their healthy limit and causing microscopic tears.
So full volume.
Your body then kicks into injury healing mode to repair these tears with scar tissue. But unfortunately...
So these front-facing speakers is coming at you, stereo speakers. Now, with the Samsung, they got stereo speakers as well, but it's at the bottom. If I can flip this around, it's at the bottom. So, and on the sides. Now, I like the placement on the sides a little bit more because more of the sound can escape. But at the same time, it's still at the bottom. If you have it in your lap, you can definitely muffle it. Let's put the volume all the way. Look at that. The volume's all the way up.
Tissue and organ damage from narrowed and blocked arteries. Increased workload on the circulatory system. Complications of high blood pressure can result.
Now, in a small room with no background noise or nothing like that, the speakers are adequate. But if you're in anywhere that have any background noise, it's going to be a struggle to hear.
The scar tissue traps plaque and white blood cells, which can form into blockages, blood clots, and hardened, weakened arteries. Over time, if the...
You hear the crispness of the sound?
Kidney failure.
Big difference, guys, between the speakers. So, obviously, in this speaker battle, we got to give it to the Dell. Basically, for me, with the Samsung, yeah, the Samsung got the better battery. For whatever reason, I am not 100% sure. But I seem to get about 8 hours. I can see peaking out at about 8 hours, mixed usage. You know, watching YouTube, you know, whatever you do. For me, I watch a lot of video because I'm editing. You know, the same thing with the Dell. They tout in about 10 hours of battery life. I can only peak out about 7 hours or so in that area. If I do more video or more intense editing or whatever it is, maybe less. So Samsung, 8 hours of battery life. I mean, and I'm talking regularly. You can eke out about 8 hours. With the Dell, I would say at the most you can get is 7 hours, maybe even less, depending on what you're doing, depending on where you have the brightness, because they're both two different type of screens, and the screens got a lot to do with it. So pretty much when it comes to battery life, I gotta give it to Samsung. Samsung wins with that area. Now, when it comes to the keyboard, I have absolutely no complaints between both of these devices. I feel the keyboard have a nice click, a nice jump back. They feel good. I would honestly say the pressing in the button, it's a longer distance than on the Samsung. The Samsung a little bit more shorter, a little bit more springy, jumps back real good. And I find that to be why I think the Samsung have a more comfortable keyboard than the Dell. But I'm telling you, you won't be disappointed with this Dell keyboard or the Samsung keyboard. Both of them feels excellent, but I'd rather go with the Samsung. I feel it's a little bit more softer, a little bit more polished, and a little bit more response than the Dell. But I'm telling you, the Dell OWN is a really good keyboard as well. So almost a wash, but I give it to the Samsung, better keyboard. Now when it comes to the trackpad, this feels a little bit more smoother than the Dell. And if anyone has watched my Chromebooks reviews before, you know I like a smooth trackpad, but I like a little bit of feel to it, so I don't get that sticky finger feel. Now on the Samsung, I have a little bit of feel too, but it's a little bit more smoother, just a little bit more smoother than the Dell OWN. And I like them both, but they only could pick one. Now when it comes to the taps, they both respond to taps very well, but there's no little spring action. It's like with the Dell, it wants to move. So the Dell have a little bit more movement to it, a little bit more play when you're just tapping. Now, when you're pressing down, a nice response from the Samsung Chromebook 3. It's a nice response. It just absolutely works. If you're tapping it, it's awesome. If you're pressing it, it's awesome. But with the Dell, this trackpad is a little mushy. It's a little wobbly, but at the same time, it's a very good trackpad. But if you're the type of person who likes to press, you're not going to like the way this trackpad feels. My daughter figured it out immediately. So if you're the person that just likes to tap, then you're fine. You're not going to have no problem with this trackpad. But if you're a person that likes to press, this trackpad ain't for you. You're not going to like the Chromebook over that. Now, webcams, neither one of these webcams you're going to write home about. But I'll tell you this, the Samsung webcam seems to be a little bit more sharper. Both of these Chromebooks, you know, the Samsung won some stuff. Dell won some areas as well. But if I had to pick a winner, because of the trackpad, because of the screen, even though the inadequate speakers on the Samsung, and even though the great speakers on the Dell with the build that I do like, overall, if I had to pick one, even though this is a hard choice, I would pick the Samsung. Because you know what? When it comes to getting some work done, you don't want anything to be in your way. And the last thing you want is a wobbly trackpad that when you press it, it just doesn't feel as crisp or as sharp as this one. So pretty much with that, guys, that's the end of that. Samsung wins. But Dell is very capable and it has its uses. I like them both. We'll see you in the next one.